this, look at this. Good to be here.
Yeah,
I hope y'all missed us as much as we missed you. Huh?
Yeah, let somebody sit.
Right, look like they've been to Baghdad. That's so good. We're informal, you know that. And I thought what we would do was gather today, use this occasion to hug and kiss and be glad that we got back safely and that nobody tore up the cooler house. Thank you. I'm very relieved I had to go do my drive-by. Thanks for the love. And I guess you don't have to ask us if we had a good time. You can see it all over our faces. We brought a few gifts back for you, knowing that you certainly wanted to be there as much as we did, and so we are acting as agency of your desires, and to bring you back some of Egypt in the form of our own experiences, and we'll talk more about that later. We're very informal today, so relax. I think the first order of business, though, is to take a moment to express our gratitude for the grace that has been shown us. You know, this is grace. This trip happened by grace. We're back here by grace, and this grace will just keep flowing. I mentioned to you on many past occasions that this is all about the recognition of grace. You know, sadhana ultimately must be a response to grace. Grace is always already the case, so it's not as if you got to do anything to get it. Just as you've done nothing to exist, have you? It's just given. You've done nothing to breathe air. It is just given. Your life is just given to you. It is a gift of grace. So grace is always here. You don't have to read a book to attract grace. Your very existence is the proof that there is grace. All that is required of us is to respond to that grace. I think what we saw in Kemet was the epitome of the right response to grace. Don't you all agree? Yes. It was a response to grace full of devotion, perfection of devotion, actually. I mean, it was perfect devotion. There was nothing sloppy in their worship. Was it?
No.
In fact, tedious, you know? So I'm hoping that that spirit has been imbued in our hearts and in our memory, and that we come back here to Baghdad and recreate that kind of perfect devotion in response to gratitude, to grace. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Interestingly enough, we had a running joke about Baghdad, so that when you see the DVDs and so forth, so that it don't go over your head, let me just tell you a little bit about why that became such a integral part of our experience, running joke for us, so to speak. But in Sufism, there's a story of a man that lived in Baghdad who, like many of us, had failed in his search for the answers to life, to the key of life, to finding the secret, if you will, of real happiness, you know. Desperate in his failed search, he turned to a friend of his who was a Sufi and asked his friend, do we know anyone that could give him the secret of happiness? And his Sufi friend told him, yes, I know of a man, but he's in Egypt. And so the seeker from Baghdad went on a journey to find this man. And long story short, through all of the search, he finally come across this man and asked him, you see, I was told by my friend in Baghdad that you knew of a man that could give me the secret to happiness. And the man in Egypt said, yes, I do, but he lives in Baghdad. So we were like that, you know, we went to Egypt to find the secret, but the secret is here. You see, this is Baghdad, Illinois. What you're searching for in Egypt is here all the time. You see. And you don't have to go anywhere, really, to find what you're looking for. It's the moral of the story. So let us begin rightly here by taking a minute and appreciating the grace and thanking the Lord for the grace that it continues to shower on us. God do this. Let the church say amen.
Amen.
Thank you for the grace. You see, ultimately, your sadhana is an expression of your gratitude for the grace. But of course, if you do not recognize the grace, then there just can't be any sadhana in your case, not in any real sense, you see. By grace, you see, we all been given a chance. Everyone is given a chance. We were in Egypt, and on one evening we were talking about that a little bit. I don't know if you caught it on DVD or not, but I was sharing with those gathered that my father sings a kind of old gospel song, title of which is "You Had Your Chance." If you heard my father sing, then you know it's not anything pleasant about hearing that. But the lyrics of the song is always good to hear. The song really says basically that once we have heard Dharma and have been called to respond to that Dharma, then you've had your chance. Some will respond to the call, some will not. But whoever has heard it have had their chance, you see. And in some respect, this is true of all of us, you see. We have heard the Dharma. And now it's up to you whether you will respond or not, but you certainly have had your chance. And what you have to decide is what you will do with that. Everyone that is called to respond to that, do not respond to it. Many are called, few choose to respond, for real. And your sadhana is the only sign of a genuine response to the gift of Dharma. Of course, while we were away, it wasn't all tourism. There was some practice integrated into it. I'm hoping that while you all were not able to go to Egypt, that you still was involved in your practice. But you know, beloveds, the truth of the matter is that until and unless the spiritual life becomes the purpose for which you are living, you're not going to really be able to do sadhana. You're going to struggle with sadhana forever. So you got to begin to reflect on what will be the purpose of your life. I'm reminded of the poem by Rumi. We all know it. We've heard it many times already. Hopefully we will have many occasions in the future to revisit it. I love Rumi. I love these Sufis. They have a way with words that they're able to reduce language to its essence. And the essence of language is poetry, you see. When you remove all of the fat from speech, what you get is poetry, it's the essence. When we visit the perfume factory, you all understand something about essence, right? But in one of the poems, if you recall, Rumi is saying that Shams of Tabriz said something to him that hit him in his chest. Rumi says that what Shams Tabriz said to him was that which was said to the rose that makes it bloom. He says what Shams Tabriz said to him was said to the cypress to make it stand straight. What Shams said to him is what was said to sugarcane to make it sweet. And so if you hear that, you must be wondering, well, what was it that Shams said to Rumi? Of course we don't know, but historians and the biographers of Rumi have come up with something that they feel made up that conversation. In Sufism, they call that conversation sohbet. So they have some theories about what the contents of that sohbet was. Those things that Shams Tabriz said to Rumi. And according to them, Shams just suddenly appeared at the door of Rumi's study, where Rumi would sit poring over his manuscripts, his scriptures. He was a great scholar, as you all know. And dressed in his rags, and in his uncouth way, he simply burst into the study and grabbed the manuscripts and ran out to the river and threw them all in the river. To Rumi's credit, he did not overreact. He was puzzled by such a radical act. And he inquired, why do you do that? And the sohbet began with Shams Tabriz asking him, you've been studying these books all of your life. Is that the purpose of your life, to simply study books? What Shams began to do was to inquire of Rumi, what is the purpose of your life? When will you live what you've been studying, he asked. For years you've been reading and talking and writing about Allah. You see? But you don't know Allah. Is the purpose of your life simply to read and talk about Allah? Or is the purpose of your life to know Allah? He began to put those kind of questions to Rumi. He is saying something to Rumi that is opening Rumi up. And by the end of that sohbet, you see, Rumi was completely transformed. So what was said to Rumi has been said to us, you see. I've asked you 1,000,000 times to set your life in the palm of your hand. Right? But you don't do that. So maybe today, some of you have gathered the courage to do this fundamental thing, which is to examine your own life and see what is the purpose of your life. What is your purpose? Is what you're doing really the purpose of your life? Because you can't really do sadhana unless self and God realization and becoming the agency of grace is your purpose. Does this make sense to you?
Yes.
You all are struggling with sadhana because you don't have a spiritual purpose. Your practice is not connected to a purpose, fundamentally. That's why you're struggling. You're trying to do sadhana, but you got a different purpose going on here. And the two are not connected. Are you with me? So you're going to have to consider if how you are living and what you are doing, is that your purpose in life? If your purpose in life is to build a business and to be successful in a worldly sense, then you're not going to be able to do sadhana. Sadhana has no relationship to your fundamental purpose. Is what you're doing with your life, is that all you're going to do with your life? For the rest of your life? Charles was asking Rumi, and he said, here you're an old man already, you see. You've spent years doing this. Are you going to spend the rest of your life doing this? Just sitting here reading these books and talking about it? A sheikh meets a man in a reed bed, singing and crying out, Allah, Allah, Allah. And the sheikh goes over to the man and he says, beloved, have you found the secret of Allah? You see, the man says, yes. Then he said, well, why are you still alive? You see? And the man understood, you see. And he threw himself on the weeds that had been recently cut and impaled himself. And with his blood, he wrote on all of the stems, Allah, Allah, Allah. He died in his symbol. If the purpose of your life is to realize that which is the source of all this grace, then you must be willing to die while living for the sake of its realization. Are you all following me?
Yes.
You must have purpose. If you notice when we went to Egypt, you saw these temples and these communities were built by people who had a purpose in life. This was not built by people, you see, who was casual in their pursuit of enlightenment. You're not going to be dedicated to anything that is not connected to your purpose in life. So what is your purpose? I mean, really. I mean, look at what you're doing with your life. Is that the purpose of your life? Look at that. I mean, really seriously consider this argument. Is this that you are doing with your life, is that really the purpose of your life? And what has it got you? Or is there a higher purpose for which you can live? Sadhana. Spirituality is for people who have a higher purpose in their life than survival. many of you, purpose in life is survival. Your careers, your work. That's just livelihood. That's not a reason to live. What's your reason for living? So these are some of the things that I thought you might want to consider if you, for those of you who couldn't get there. Because these are the kind of questions that leap from the temples. This is the kind of question that were being asked in these pyramid texts. They were really asking us, look what we did with our life. Look at this pyramid. You see? Look at these temples. Standing after 10,000 years. This is what we did with our life. What are you going to do with yours? And one of the experiences that we had when we encountered these physical remnants of devotion, we were awed, weren't we? We were humbled by it. Astounded even, you see. But that's what they did with their life. What are you doing with your life? Where's your pyramid? So I thought we would have a little discussion about that because, you know, this is the starting point. So I don't want to just sit here and give you a lecture about it. I want to interact with you about it. Have you really found a real purpose in life, or are you just reacting to the circumstances and situations that are arising around us? Are you just living a reactive life, or are you living with some kind of higher purpose, you see? You all were called to take 4 or 5 minutes out of each hour for the duration of the retreat. And fall into a state of remembrance and devotion. Wonder how y'all did with that. Were you even able to do it? Did you struggle with it? Forgot about it? I know some of you who was on the trip did. Fell into tourism, forgot all about why we were there. So I assume that the same happened to those of you who didn't get to Egypt as well. Listening to the coolest tapes that went on, I was struck by one of the cooler meetings where people were still confessing out the difficulties and all of that, you see, how difficult, it's hard, I have this and that, you know. Just very clear, they had no spiritual purpose in life. They're trying to do something spiritual without a spiritual purpose. That's not going to work. One of the members asked, we understand all the teachings and we want to do the thing, or at least we say we do, well, why aren't you doing it? They feel silent, each and all. They had no answer to that. Well, the answer is that you have no spiritual purpose. That's why you are not able to follow up on what you understand. You have no spiritual purpose in your life. That's not your purpose. Self and God realization and becoming the agency of love and grace and capacity, that's not your purpose. That's why you can't practice. for you, enlightenment and self-realization, an agency of love and compassion, all that is just a good ideal. It's not your purpose. And you got to understand that a good ideal is not equal to purpose. Yeah, it's a good ideal that you become agency of compassion and all of this other stuff. It's a good ideal, but it's not your purpose. Now, you rascal that went to Egypt, you see what purpose looked like, don't you? The whole thing was built on purpose. Wasn't a good ideal. A good ideal can't build pyramids. It can't build temples like that. It can't produce that kind of art, can it?
No.
That's purpose. So you all got to go beyond this good ideal business. You follow me? I mean, do whatever you need to do for that, but you certainly, this got to become more than a good ideal. As long as it's just a good ideal for you, you're going to struggle. So I'm hoping that that cooler group can meet again and really deal with it. Something to say about it? Yes, beloved.
Bhagwan, you know, the experts say there's 9 world religions. And it seems to me this time in our history is the time that we're going to get unity and recognition of that. That's a worthy undertaking. And but you still just can't go jumping in it because they have 9 fences on it. You have to do it with love and understanding and whatever else you can get to fit that, help to bring that out and make it manifest in daily day.
It's only one religion, that's love. There may be different ways by which that is expressed, but there's only one religion, ultimately.
Absolutely.
But the question is, do you really want to be a lover? Is love the purpose of your life? You see, that's what we really got to get down to. That's a good ideal. But is it purpose?
I'm a little off purpose for to carry that weight. But whatever I can do to contribute, I'll be.
See, it's your chance. You see, you have to understand that everybody in here, you've had your chance. There are no more chances here. You've had your chance. There is no more. Now, what have you been doing with your chance to become a horse? You see? What have you done with your chance to become an Isis? What have you done with your chance to become enlightened? You've had your chance. Your whole life you've had your chance. From the first day that you picked up your first book on metaphysics, that was 45 years ago. You've had your chance. Now, what did you do with your chance? Did you just keep reading books? Did you just keep talking? Did you just keep waxing eloquent about it? Did it remain at the level of a good ideal? Did you just keep philosophizing about it? What did you do, Rumi, with your chance?
I didn't do what I should have done, but
Right.
I haven't given up yet.
Well, you don't have forever.
I believe that.
And the older you get, the less capable you are to do something about
Also.
it. Don't you think so?
Yeah, absolutely.
You squander your youth, your health. Now you're standing on the verge of death.
You know,
And that's how most people do it. They don't realize they're dying until they're dying. And then usually it's too late. But this is the question, you see, beloved. Personally, you had your chance. everybody in this room, personally, are living out your chance. You got your chance on the day you got initiated, right? What have you been doing since that day with your chance? I mean, look at that. Really look at it. What have you been doing since the day of your initiation with your chance? Bullshitting, making excuses, lying to yourself, deluding yourself. What have you been doing with your chance to become Horus, to become Heru, to become enlightened? What have you been doing with your chance? You got to really put that question to yourself, you see. You got to do the self-examination. Because you had a chance, beloved. You can't die now and tell the Lord, Lord, I didn't have a chance, nobody told me. You are not in the position to make that argument in case for yourself, right? So what will you say? What would each one of you say on your final day, when you enter into the halls of Ma'at, when you are asked, Munaraju, what did you do with this chance that I gave you? You see, I made it possible for you to hear Dharma. Gave you all of the means. What did you do with yours? What are you going to say? What will you say? You were too busy? Trying to make a living? But not living? Making a living is not living. Is it? And is that the highest purpose that you can find for your life, is just to make a living? I mean, you got to ask yourself these questions here, you see. The same thing that happened to Rumi has to happen to you. Somebody's got to ask you the questions. You may not like it, you see, but if you are intelligent, if you are wise, like Rumi, you see, you get it. You follow me? And you are transformed in that moment, you see. And from that moment forward in Rumi's life, you see, he became that which he read about. You see? He became the scriptures that he used to read himself, you see? Swooned into states of ecstasy, you see? Magnificent perfume in the form of poetry just flowed from him relentlessly, you see? Spontaneously. You see? That's why we remember him 700 years later. He's still celebrated, you see? Best-selling poet in the world. Got like the Sham Therese effect. He liberated that. Are you with me? So I'm asking you the same kinds of questions, you see, though I'm not Shams Therese, you see, but then again, you're not Rumi. So that's fair. On the day of your initiation, you were given a chance. What are you doing with your chance? What have you done with your chance? What are you doing with your chance, beloveds? Really, what are you doing with your chance?
I'll probably die doing it. I'll probably die.
Doing what? Squandering it or
Pursuing
fulfilling
it.
it? Pursuing it? Well, whatever you say, you know what I mean? It's all nice and cute, but when the breath goes out of that body, and you're laying there in Hines, you won't be so philosophical about it. Pain has a way of disappearing philosophy. The reality of death sets in, but you won't be able to find any consolation in that. No one wants to talk about it? Yes, beloved.
One of the things that has and is making a difference for me is and was validated in Egypt, seeing that in the face of all of the remnants that we saw, they were all looking at something.
Yes.
They were looking at something, and then looking at what came up for me was the level of humility in the labor of love that was done in the building of those periods and the decorating of it. So for personally, it's like you have to see the greatness in what I have. I may not have charm degrees, but I have you. So it's seeing the greatness in the grace and in what I have that gives me the courage to fight for this thing.
That was something that was universally observed about all of the figurines and statues and so forth, because they were artistic representations of the state of Porter's consciousness of enlightenment, right? They were looking beyond something. You see, there was this gaze that you saw, captured in stone, right? Seeing beyond Maya, right? They were seeing something beyond the apparent, weren't they? They were seeing through something, right? They were focused. They were seeing beyond all of this, right? Seeing through it. And you saw the kind of devotion that was given to these porters. Is that about right? The king who had attained, right? So when we're there in Luxor and at the various temples, you see, you saw the devotees, the outcome of the work of the devotees built that place. Is that about right? You saw perfect devotion, perfect response to the grace. You had a sense of what real savor looks like. All of those places were communities, like our community. Well, maybe not like our community. Right there. But certainly was a community of devotees, you see. The Shimsu Horus, the followers of Eru, of Horus, or the Shimsu Isis. You see. They really built something. Yes.
Even though I wasn't able to go over there to Egypt, when you all left, I felt it. I was like, something is happening. Because physically, I didn't feel. I was overwhelmed for whatever reason. I didn't know. But when everybody came back, and there was like this ray of energy that said that from this point on, nothing is going to be the same. Now, we was fortunate enough to see some footage that Bilal had shot. And what struck me was, I can't call myself a perfect Radasi or even insult the word and say that I'm a Radasi, looking at what ISIS followers did in devotion to her. We can't even sit and meditate at the time that we're supposed to meditate because we have all these Sabar issues. Just the energy that you all brought back and what I've seen, even though I wasn't there, has opened up in me the desire to be that perfect person so I can call myself a Radasi. It's like we have nothing that we're leaving, this world. We just here just creating chaos. And over there, you still see what you were. And to me, if you went on that trip and you just went as a tourist, you missed the whole point. That to me was the perfect spiritual journey that you could have ever taken. I don't want to go anymore because through you all, I've experienced that what you saw, I felt that. across the many miles that we were, I felt whatever you all was feeling and seeing, even though I didn't know what to call it until I came back and heard the stories and seen. I said, that's why I was feeling that overwhelmed, because you all, it's like something aligned. And I don't know if that was you all meditation, you know, being perfected, you know, over there, you know, just being in that atmosphere. I just felt it. And I think that from this point on, everything in my life is a non-issue. If it's not relating to my sadhana, if I can't find a way to perfect my sadhana during my day-to-day life, then, you know, everything else is a non-issue, meaning that I'm not going to go on with this ego. I want to drop it. My desire to drop it is more so now than it ever, you know, been. Just feeling that that energy that you all have brought back with you.
And see, that's the whole point, you see. It's when you come in contact with any kind of spiritual energy, if you are sensitive, if you are receptive to it, you are converted by that very energy, that very contact with it. You are converted from a mundane purpose of life to a spiritual purpose of life. You see, you are inspired. And that was the whole point, was to go there, encounter something altogether beyond, and be inspired to the point of being converted by that experience. Your purpose change. You see my point? There's a shift in purpose now. You're no longer resisting the ordeal. You are ready to submit and surrender. You now have a purpose that makes surrendering acceptable. You don't mind surrendering anymore. You see. There's no struggle in you anymore with that, you see. That's because your purpose shifts. And this is the shift that I've been talking about. You know, there has to be this shift in purpose. You see what greatness looked like. You see your whole concept of greatness shift. You know. Yes, beloved.
You know, one of the things that I experienced in Kenya.
Stand up, Satra, so they can hear you.
One of the things in which that I experienced in Kenya was that there's no way in God's creation that all of the grandeur that existed could have ever came into manifestation through a human existence. And one of the things in which that I experienced and felt as though everything was willed. You know, it seemed like their spirituality was willed. You know, it was willed into existence.
Yes.
And one of the things in which that I took away from that is that even in terms of my own practice, it's not the practice that is important, it's how you will it into existence. There have to be a certain will to do something.
Yes.
And it have to be spiritual.
Yes.
And everything, you know, throughout that entire atmosphere, it was spiritual. And it just seemed as though everything was willed into existence.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, what came through my mind and we kept on whispering, you know, let thy will be done, you know.
Yeah.
It was willed into existence.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. And it was just as though when Bilal and I, you know, we had had no strength, you know, and Hasu would tell you maybe we had about 10 minutes worth of rest or half an hour, and we just willed ourselves into doing whatever we. I think everyone willed themselves into doing whatever because we didn't have no strength, did we? No. And so everything we did, it was sort of, we just willed into an existence, wasn't it? Because we didn't have no strength, we didn't have nothing left. But the will of the spiritual guiding force in which, of course, we plugged directly into you, the will that. But it was just an amazing thing how this spiritual willpower just manifested itself.
That's called purpose.
I have a question.
You see, that's purpose, right? You own purpose. You came there with a purpose, right? And when you own purpose, you find the extra energy necessary. You see, a purpose shift. You see, that's exactly what I'm talking about, beloved. The purpose. You know, now that we're here in Baghdad, that purpose must still remain the case. You see, it's the purpose. You see, that is what gives you the strength. And you're absolutely right. What you saw was the conquest of stone and marble and sand. You see, the transformation of a desert. You see, into paradise. The first and the only and the real Shangri-La is Kemet. You see, all other Shangri-Las are figments of your imagination. That's the real Shangri-La, raised out of the Sahara Desert. You see? And that's purpose. That's will. You see, it cuts through tiredness, as you put it. You see, it gives you that strength. But without that purpose, you see, nothing can be done. Nothing grand is going to arise. You see. And the same is the case for your sadhana. You're just not going to do any sadhana because you have no spiritual purpose in life.
I have a question.
You see, you have no spiritual purpose. You're just trying to pay bills. You're trying to have bodily comfort, fulfilling relationships, money, food, sex, bodily comfort. That is not a spiritual purpose. You're trying to get fame. You're trying to get power. You're trying to get gratification here and there. That kind of purpose of life is not consistent with sadhana. You can't do no sadhana. You have no purpose.
I have a question for those who went. Now, remember, can't think, maybe a couple of weeks ago when he asked us about the alive date. Do you feel that you experienced a new alive date going over there? Have you remained the same? Would you view this as your new alive date, that trip?
Well, I think that you all are going to have a cooler meeting, and I'm going to leave those kind of questions to the cooler meetings.
Oh, okay.
Because by the time you get all these responses, it'll be night here. Everybody has something to say about that. What I'm hoping is that we bought you gifts, of course, that we're going to distribute here. And I'm thinking that what I would love to see is that everybody that didn't have a chance to go there will have an opportunity to question you within your cooler meeting. So let your next cooler meeting be accommodating to those questions. So I'm sure that in everybody cooler there will be at least maybe one person that went on the trip. And if there is a cooler group that don't have a person that's been on the trip, then let me know and we'll send somebody over there so that you get a chance to really kind of put those questions to them and give them a chance to really fully respond to it, because it's a good question, what kind of impact the trip has had on you in terms of changing how you will live from this point forward. Those are legitimate questions. Something else? Yes, beloved?
How can you find your spiritual purpose?
You have to reflect and consider. First of all, nobody can tell you what your purpose is. That's the first thing. Okay, it's an investigation that you have to make. You have to look at all of the possibilities for your life and everything. Now, there's many things you can do with this short lifetime that you have. Many things. So you can devote it to this. You can devote your lifetime to that, so forth and so on. And out of all of the thousands of things that you can devote your lifetime to, what is the greatest thing? You see? Because you want to do something great. Everybody is impulsed to do something great. But the question is, what is really great? Is becoming a CEO, is that really the greatest possibility for a human being? Or whatever, you see? I mean, people have different concepts of it. And among all of those possibilities, one of the possibilities is to become enlightened, to achieve Hortus consciousness, to get in touch with and make manifest your inherent divinity. One of those greater things you can accomplish with your life is to become an agency of grace, love, compassion, to make a contribution, to become useful in this great unlimited loving process going on down here, to become in a kind of partnership with the divine, you see, to become a source, an agency of love, you see? But in any case, once you make your reflection, then you have to decide, you see. Hmm? Now, in addition to that, you also have to examine what you're doing right now. Is this what you're doing now? Is that the purpose of your life?
No.
You see? So you really have to do two things, really. You got to examine your life, Otamadi, and see what you're doing right now and find out, is this even the purpose of your life? Because you may be thinking in your head that, well, the purpose of my life is to be this or to be that. So look where you're at right now. Are you living on purpose? Is that what you're really up to? Let's say if your purpose is, for instance, to become a billionaire, okay? Well, what you're doing now, does that have anything to do with it? You see. So whatever your purpose is something you have to go find. You see? And then go from there. Hmm? So the saints and sages, you see, represents one kind of propaganda. The saints and sages said that, well, this is the purpose of life. You see, if you listen to them, then you will live the spiritual way of life. The politicians say, well, this is the purpose of life. If you listen to the politicians, then you will live accordingly. You know, the television said this is the purpose of life. You see, marketers said the purpose of life is to become a consumer. If that's what you accept, you become a consumer. You see, so forth and so on. So usually your purpose of life will reflect to who you are listening to, whom you have believed. All right? If you listen to businessmen, then the purpose of your life will be business. You see my point? Businessmen are your gurus. You see, everybody's got a guru. So let's get this clear. It's just a question of who's and what your guru is. So you have to find that, you see. You're going to die. You are dying. Mhm. And so what is it that you want to do and accomplish with your lifetime before it ends? What will you do with your life? And that's the fundamental question. Yes, we love it.
I keep hearing on the radio about thousands and thousands of people that want the Bible for their country, some parts of China, I think, and other. And what about such a cause as that? Trying to help promote that. It could cost you your life, but the way I understand it's going on.
If that's what you want to do with your life. So you can do with your life whatever you want to do with your life. It's your life.
Yeah.
You see my point? Some people wish to devote their lifetime and living to trying to rescue humanity. Well, they can try that, you see. I don't know how successful they will be. How will you run the lives of 7 billion people? You know, or bring
put
peace
your
in the
life
world.
on the line.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's up to you. It's whatever you want to do with your life. You see, that's why I say you have a chance. You see, you can become a Buddha, or you can become what you're trying to be. That's the proposition before everyone. You see, you could become a Ramasi, you could become a Ptahotep, you could become a Buddha, a Mahavira, a Rumi, a Chantabris, what we call great being, great soul. Or you can be what you're trying to be. That's the choice, right? That's the decision you make. What do you want to be? A great being, a Buddha, a Mahavira, a Kabir, a Dadu, a Mirabah, a Sajyoba, a Lao Sus, a Zarathustra? Or do you want to be what you're doing? That's the thing. And you get to make that call. You follow me?
Exactly.
You get to make that call. You see, Ramasi is still impacting people. You see, Rumi is still moving people. 700 years later, he lived a great life, a lifetime that has become a part of the process. Rumi has moved into that space where sunshine is at. He's become elemental. You follow what I'm saying? His life has produced benefits even beyond his physical lifetime. After your physical lifetime, what will be left that has moved the process? What blessings will still be in the air? You see? Jesus, you see, and Muhammad, you know, Muhammad has been gone for hundreds and hundreds of years, yet his name is on the lips of a billion people. One of the things that we saw there in Egypt in the early morning when they called the prayer, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, and you saw people dropping to their knees. They could call Theravadaji and nobody's dropping to their knees. So it depends, you follow me? Whether you want to become a great being, a great soul, or what you're trying to be.
Is
That's
there
what you
enough
gotta
time to
decide.
get a great soul would be my first choice, of course.
Well, you had your
It's not- I
chance.
know.
You had your
It's
chance.
not a complaint, it's a point of trying to save the day. or
You
with
had your
something or
chance. So
something.
what can I tell you? You had your chance.
I know I'm
You
getting
had
back.
your 3 scores 10. You see my point? No sense begging now. That's why I keep telling you all, you piss your lifetime away. And only as you get toward the end of that lifetime do you see how stupid you were. You just done pissed your life away, time away. Now you know, when we become old and decrepit and the world don't want us, don't nobody want you no more. You don't look good no more. You ain't got no money. You're nobody's boss when the world has absolutely no use for you. Then, you see, then you want to become a great soul. Then you want God. You see, but when you were young and you had your youth, you had your chance.
I'm not complaining.
Yeah. You still got a little time though. But the point I'm making is that, you see, because Theravadaji is our elder. He represents, I mean, all of us going to be where he's at.
Amen, hallelujah.
You had your chance when this body mind was fit for devotion. You see, now you get old, your mind gone, you see now, your body broke down. What kind of silence you going to do? You see, you have been giving your chance to become a great being. And what have you done and are doing with your chance? I choose out.
Is it possible to know your purpose or find your purpose without listening to anybody?
Well, that's interesting. It depends on each individual. Some people are born knowing it, intuitively. Some people have to be reminded of it. You follow me? Some people have to be beat across the head. It depends on each individual, you see. But you know when you have found and you're living your life on purpose, because then there's something transcendent going on in you. You follow what I mean? There's a kind of liberation that occurs in your case, you see. Your whole subjective experience shifts. You see, there's something ego transcendent about it. Most purposes require ego transcendence. There's more joy, you see. One of the telltale signs that you have found your purpose is Satchidananda. You see, one, Sat. You see, that your life becomes full of much more reality, much more real, defantasized, demythologized, truth. You see my point? You start feeling that you're living the truth, that your life is really truthful. You see, most of us know that the way we're living is an absolute lie. Most of us know that already, yet we persist in that. You see. But when you find purpose, you know, that's all over. You see. Sat is there. You see. There's more chit, more intelligence, more awareness. You see. And of course, there's more Ananda, more bliss. Actually, you see, one of the things we're in the museum in Cairo, we're looking at Khafri, you see, and you can see him sitting there. with that hawk symbolism surrounding him. And you could see that look. You know, you have to see that look. There's a certain look. You know, it's focused, clear, no doubt, no confusion. When you're on purpose, there's no confusion, there's no regret, there's no remorse, there's no guilt, there's no shame. All negative states of mind and feelings drops out. No regret, nothing. You're on purpose. You see? There's no waste of time. You follow what I'm saying? Every minute of life is fulfilling because it's on purpose. You see? If your life is characterized by feelings of guilt, shame, remorse, regret, confusion, doubt, fear, then you may know for sure it's not purposed. The ultimate form that the purpose life take is savor. You do savor. You see, you have to, beloved, really go into considering the things that Cham Tabriz was saying in the room. You know, he was putting those kind of questions to him, asking him, is your life on purpose? You know, have you become that? He said, you've been worshiping Allah, you don't even know him. You see my point? If your purpose is to know Allah, then know Allah, and not merely read about Allah, you see? Otherwise, how could you say you fulfill your purpose, you see? The theologian who studies about God, you see my point? It's different from the mystic who has realized God altogether, you see? It's a little bit of a cumbersome discussion, you see. But hopefully today I'm trying to stimulate you. Now, it depends again who you listen to. You see, there's a lot of propaganda out in the marketplace, you know. Some people say, well, the purpose of life is to get married, raise your children, and live the Cliff Huxtable life. Somebody say, well, the purpose of life is to get you a good job, work your ass off, and become the president of the company. Somebody else will say, well, the purpose, I mean, you got so many people telling you what the purpose of life is. Amongst those people, there's also the enlightened one. They're saying, no, the purpose of life is to become the agency of love. The purpose of life is to make a contribution to the process itself, you see? And it depends on which one of those you believe. So there's kind of a kind of classification, if you will, a variety of arguments as to what is and what is not the purpose of life. So you have this small lifetime to figure out, who will you believe? 10,000 Buddhas or George Bush? It really comes down to it. Right? Then you have to experiment. You know what I mean? See, you can't know anything about enlightenment until you become enlightened. It's just how it is. You see, there's some things you can't know until you become it. So you have to choose. You see, you have just a small lifetime. You see. Just a small lifetime. You can't examine everything. You know, you're going to have to roll the dice. And then you look at the life and the living of people. You see. So whose life looks more credible? Muhammad, Jesus, Buddha, Mahavira, or the other guys? I mean, that's what you have to look at. See, something in you has to aspire for a higher purpose of life. You know. I mean, what kind of life you want to live? Do you want to make a contribution, or do you want to live the useless life? Some people chose to live a useless kind of life, just useless, of no use to anybody, fundamentally, self-indulgent. And then there's some people that want to live a great life, you know what I mean? To become a window or a door that people can look through or step through into ecstasy, you see? I mean, what do you want to do with your life? Would you like to become that kind of being, that kind of human being that is able to bring people's suffering to an end? to be a presence that heals broken hearts. I mean, this is a good thing to think about. I mean, what kind of human being do you want to be? Do you want to be the source of happiness? I mean, this is interesting. You know? I mean, this is what you must reflect. I mean, look at the kind of being that Shanta Breeze were, or these great mystics. You know what I mean? That Rumi could contact them. You know what I mean? That they're like philosopher's stones. Are you with me? You come in touch with them and you're transformed. You know, Peter comes in touch with a Jesus and transformed. They're transformative. You know what I mean? You come in contact with them and you become a new kind of being. You know, do you want to be like that? Or do you want to be that kind of being that people come in contact with and they become more miserable, more confused, more unhappy? That kind of being that if people come in contact with you, they get exploited, reduced to slavery. I mean, what kind of being do you want to be? You're going to be something, aren't you? You're already something. So you have to decide that, and then make the purpose of your life the attainment of that state. That becomes the purpose of your life. It's to become a manifestation of that kind of being. But you have to decide for yourself. I mean, I can't tell you. The spiritual path is really for those who have decided to become that kind of a being that will make a contribution to the process of unlimited loving. Become a part of that process of unlimited loving. To become God-like, to put it bluntly. Do you want to be God-like? Or you want to be like the people on TV? I mean, that's the issue. The spiritual life is for people who want to become God-like. The worldly life is for people who don't want to become God-like. It's that simple. And the question is, what do you want to become? And you got to deal with all of that. The presumption is that if you responded to the spiritual path and got initiated, you wanted to become God-like. That was the presumption, perhaps a wrong presumption. You know what I mean? But that's the presumption, nevertheless. So some of you say, well, that's a good idea to become God-like. But I don't want to do that which becoming God-like requires. You know, you don't want to go through the process. You can't develop all of those virtues reading a book. You know what I mean? You have to enter into a real process. You have to transcend this ego. So, I mean, you have to die. There has to be some sacrifices, so forth and so on. So you want to be spiritual people. That's another way of looking at it. You want to be a spiritual person? Because most people flatter themselves, saying, you know, I'm spiritual. No. Becoming a spiritual person is a good ideal for you, no doubt, but you're not spiritual. You know what I mean? You have none of the virtues of a spiritual person, do you? You want to become spiritual, but you don't want to do any spiritual practice. So, you know, that don't line up with it. So there in Kemet, you see on the walls of the temples, They show the whole drama, the whole process is spilled out there. This is what you gotta go through. You gotta, you know, Osiris has to enter into the Duat. He has to die. He's got to be cut to pieces. You know what I mean? He's got to pass through the Duat. And out of that, he is resurrected as the voice. There's a real ordeal that must be gone through. That's just not philosophy. You see? Yes, beloved.
When Horus was cut in pieces, was that physically or?
That was
spiritually?
Osiris.
I'm sorry.
Osiris. And not so much physically, it's a metaphor.
Right, like dying while living.
Yes, yes, yes. You see. Broken up, tore up, you see. And it was destroyed and tore by Set. You know what I mean? That negative impulse in it. You see, in all of us, you see, that Sethian impulse in us, you see. So forth and so on. Yes, beloved.
Yeah, I want to say that, most of the advanced, I observed most of the advanced souls that were a part of what a great work and a great process, all of them were lovers. And I want to say that they actually evolved, into something more greater. Like I said, I observed the word evolve. The first 4 letters in evolve is love. That means that you have to become a lover in order to evolve.
Absolutely. You see. Love is the epitome of evolution. You see. And see, it's always difficult to discourse on these kind of things, you see. That's why I thank God for Rumis and Hafez, you see, and Farids. Because poetry says it best. You know what I mean? Because it's the answer to a lot of these questions is a feeling. There's a feeling that answers those kind of questions. You have to be moved into a different space to know the answer to those kind of questions, you see. They're beyond rational discourse altogether, you know. To want to be loved, you know? To be the source of love, an agency of love. Well, it requires a kind of ordeal that you have to submit to. It's a process you have to go through. I don't really even know how to talk about it, to be honest with you. You see?
It's scary.
Huh?
It's mysterious.
Yes, yes, it's very difficult, you know. But you gotta have some kind of vision for your life. I'm reminded of a story of a Sufi goes to a perfume shop. You all know what a perfume shop is now. And comes into the shop, you know, in his tattered garments and his gore. You know, they used to carry this gore for drinking and eating, and then they would sleep on it at night, so he has his gore. Comes into the perfume shop. He looks around, you know. You see, and he sees Dawn, he said, you know, there's a lot of wealth up in here. You got a lot of money. You know what I mean? So forth. He said, it's going to be hard for you to die with all that money. And the guy's, you know, that owner says, well, yes, it's true, I got a lot of money and all of that, you know, but, you know, I know a thing or two. I don't think it's going to be that hard. I mean, you know, I think I probably can die, probably just as well as you can, you see. So the Sufi said, oh, yeah? So he said, go down and drop dead. And the chop owner got it. Oh, this man knows how to do it. And that shopkeeper became Farid Undin Attar. Attar means perfume store. He became Farid Undin of the perfume store. He became a great mystic. You know what I mean? Well, it's like that. Like the mystic said, you know, we say, well, you know, I think I can love, I can become a lover. And then the mystic do the act right there, you know, and then we see the difference between them and us, you know what I mean? They can love right now, you see, this very minute. And there's no plan on loving down the road after I get this, that, and so forth and so on. There's a more immediacy in it, don't you think? So it's more radical. You see, there's love, and then there's radical love. Murray said there are stories of love, and then there's the love that obliterates you. They sing of the love that obliterates you. So we want to love, but we want to remain intact. That's not the love that the mystics talk about. They talk about the love that will obliterate you. Is that what you want to become? There's a lot of different. All right, am I being too serious here today? I don't intend to be. I thought this would be a celebration. I don't know what's happening. But that's what they said, right? I lay a trap and I fall into it, right? I go hunting for a bear and I catch a rabbit. Try to start an honest business and wind up in prison. Who's making these decisions?
Where's your donkey?
Yes, beloved.
Master, I can make people laugh a little bit with a story that I have
Yes.
that inspired me a lot when we were on the trip. Master had a game for us on the boat, on the ship that we were on, and it was called the Sufi game, right?
Yes.
And the Sufi game was when he calls you, you have to come and do meditation. That means drop and die right then and there, okay? So he basically said that to say, well, when you get ready to die, you're not going to get any kind of, no kind of warning, no message, you're about to die or anything like that, so you need to just be ready. So anyway, we're having this big, beautiful dinner, our first dinner that we're going to get dressed up. And just, we all have, when they're all about outfits and everything, and we're getting dressed up and we're going out for our beautiful dinner, and we were all taking pictures, and we were just so happy and, getting into everything. And it was just such a beautiful spiritual moment there on the ship, and also just, in the town that we were in. So we were all surrounded by all of that. And I don't know what happened. I don't know. I guess Master disappeared some kind of way. All I know is we were all taking pictures. We had eaten dinner and everything. And next thing you know, our Mahants came and said, Master said, come right now. So now we were supposed to do dancing and all that after dinner. So now there's no time to do anything but get up to the top of the ship and just drop.
Dance!
I'm telling you, dance!
It was right before dessert, too. And the waiter was going, well, we got it ready for you now. Nope.
We had to go. So it was like, that actually inspired me because, it was like saying, guess what? He's for real. When you get ready to die, you won't know nothing. It's just going to happen, and you need to be ready.
Yes.
And, and then everybody was asking me, well, Namasutra, are you going to change? And I said, no, I'm not changing. That was the parable I could do. She's like, are you going to change? How are you going to meditate? And I said, I'm meditating right just in this. Because I'm not going to go and change anything. I'm just going to drop down. And that's what we did. And another thing I loved was when we went up into the, Master said, okay, what we're going to do, you all, we're going to have to go against the flow of the people. Because there were other people on the ship. So he says we're going to have to go against the flow of the people so we can do this Sufi thing. So we ended up, everybody was having dinner, and he says, let's all go up to the lounge. So we all went up to the lounge and did meditation, right? We were all in there and we were sitting. So next thing you know, we were sitting like past the time that the people had finished eating. So now they're ready to come to the lounge to do their party, and we're in there all sitting. And you could just tell, I don't know. I know I could feel like, what are they doing? What are these people doing? And none of us moved. We sat, and because of the love that we have for Master, and because of, we sat and nobody touched us. Everybody was just scared. I guess they said, well, when they finish, we're going to give them a thing to do. And Master got called to, when we sat till Master said it was over,
Ding the
and
bell.
ding the bell, and then we all got up and just walked away. And they said, could you come here for a second? And that was just, that and along with the fact that, as he was saying, how tired we were because we were constantly going. But what I noticed is that through it all, you never seemed tired at all, which meant to me, I said, he definitely is one with God to be able to, all this pain that we are going through, that he seems to not be feeling at all. And I want to say, Master, are you a little tired? And then it just lets me know that all the things that I end up doing in my life, which I know you always end up bringing it up, do you want to be a president of the company, or do you want to, you know? And basically it let me know that along with the kings and queens that were there, who ran their countries, did everything, but also was able to become a God man or a God woman at the same time.
Right, that was a very good lesson for you to see.
Very.
Right, they did not have to sacrifice power, wealth, and all of that.
Was able to do everything, but also still be able to become a God man.
They were able to do all the other things because they became
Because
God. You see, and that was a powerful lesson. You know, it's not that you got to choose this or that. No, you see, you do this. It's just as Jesus says. You first seek the kingdom of heaven, and all things will be added unto you. Rather than this philosophy of, no, let me get all things first added to me, and then I will see. Just the reverse of that, you see. And so you saw, you know, that kind of strength and tenacity that it takes to survive that ordeal. That's what gives you the power to run a kingdom. You follow what I'm saying? Not the opposite. You see? So there was a lot of good things there. More will emerge as time go on for you, you know, because with so much, it's just going to bubble up. And the good thing is that those who did not go will serve you well, because they're going to be asking you questions that bringing these things out of you. So that's why I want you to get together and submit to their questions. You all are free to call them at midnight, anytime you feel like it. Cairo, you know, I'm not interested in perpetuating this thing. I have no interest in that. You know, this all can be dispersed. It really can. You know, the cooler house can be sold. I mean, you know, this don't have to be. Right? I have no interest in this. Just a fraternity at all. You see. If spiritual life is not your purpose, it's not your annual objective, then okay, you know, you don't need to be here. You really don't. I know some of us are family and friends, we can still be that, can't we? That won't change. So if you really don't want to do your sadhana, you don't like sadhana, and you have a hell of a time doing it, then probably spirituality is not a genuine purpose for you, and you need to just acknowledge that and honor that and go on with your business. You see my point? In time, perhaps another lifetime, this exposure in this lifetime will pay off for you. You know, you'll be born again with a real impulse. You know what I mean? A genuine impulse and thirst for it. But you don't want to falsify yourself. It's no great crime. You know what I mean? But we cannot and will not desecrate or blaspheme against what it means to be a spiritual community when you saw one. You see my point? I mean, you can't do this no more. You can't have this kind of pretense, can you? Because you've seen what is great. You've seen this is the real deal here. Right? So all of you whiners, you know, I I mean, if something is hard for you and you're struggling and you just hate doing this stuff here and it interferes with this, okay, you probably, this is not the purpose of your life. It's just a good ideal for you. Great. Wait until that good ideal for you evolves into your purpose. Then come to the house. If we're still here, you know what I mean? That'll be the right time. See, but ultimately, we must be made up of a group of people who have the same purpose. Does that make sense? But as long as you got somebody whose secret purpose in life is to become famous, you know what I mean? To become this or that, then, you know, it's going to be a conflict. And always be struggling, you know, and feeling guilty. I don't want you feeling guilty. There's no place for that. So we want to do this thing right, you see. Or not do it at all. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Before you left, you met with the group that wasn't going, and you said that we would get an opportunity to process. So are you going to give us another occasion?
Well, we can use some more this occasion, if you're up to it. How many are up to it? You were gone. All right, let me hear from the people that were back here. You heard a little bit from the people that went to Egypt, but I think we still can benefit from hearing the experience that was going on here in Baghdad. You would like to begin, beloved?
I was listening to Nama Sutra, and that when she spoke about having to drop, I don't know about anybody else. I did get a chance to speak with a few people, but my experience, immediately I started feeling this missing you guys right away. And so I went deeper into it, and I'm like, well, this is my opportunity. It's another opportunity to really, really challenge myself and really, really do this thing. So in relation to what Nama Sutra said about dropping, ours wasn't, you know, my experience wasn't so much out of the blue, but it was like every hour I had an opportunity to drop, you know, like I had never dropped before. And it got sweet. It got so sweet that I want to continue to drop like that.
Someone else experienced, because again, everybody had pretty much the same instruction, even those who went away. Every hour, 4 or 5 minutes, give your attention to simple and deal. That was the universal instruction, right? I had a chance to observe how it went down in Egypt, but of course, I'd like to know how it went down back here. How did that go for you all?
Yeah, I had talked to Raji a little bit about it, and I talked to her and asked her. Well, in the discussion, it was like, how we gonna pull this off, you know, because I was thinking about you guys in Egypt, and it's like you're gonna be distracted. You know, how are they gonna even be capable of doing this practice? You know, so that inspired me, because my routine, you know, I'm used to it. Because I was looking at it and I'm like, man, hour to hour for 12 days, you know. But immediately I dropped that attitude, you know, thinking about you guys and what you would have to go through in order to do this practice, to pull yourself out, you know, of the awe, you know, that's over there. Man, I'm thinking, man, if I was over there, I'd find that very difficult. So that inspired me, you know, and I might add, I was pretty successful, you know, in doing my salats.
What was the biggest obstacle? Did anybody have any struggle, the biggest struggle while here? So,
Yes, I struggled. First and foremost, I did not know how unaware I am about being on purpose. An hour would go by, and then I'm like, oh, wait, I'm supposed to do my 4 or 5 minutes, and then I have to do it then. And then, okay, 2 or 3 hours, oh, I forgot to do it. So what I started to do was say, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna have to do the moment to moment because I cannot focus on this 5 minutes. Say, well, now that an hour in the car, we go, oh, 2 hours have gone by. So we like, stop, okay, don't talk. And you really have to be focused and concentrated. So I would rather I started doing just the moment to moment. That way it kept it in my mind that, you know, as versus the 5 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes, I would forget the 4 and 5 minutes. I allow my attention to be strayed away, but that allowed me to see that I really need to be focused on what I'm doing. I just don't pay attention to what I'm doing. I can even do that for 5 minutes every hour.
Okay. Yes, Dr. Martin.
You know, by Roger made you think, and the ones that were with me, I had got really sick the first couple of days, and I was doing the hour to hour because Roger Beer's watch was going off pretty regular. But Master said for me to just try to do this thing as often as I could. And what happened was that I really got well. I really did get well, didn't I? I was, it got sweet, and it's still sweet, and it's easy to do it because I've been inspired. It really made me well. I haven't had any bouts with my blood pressure, but I'll tell you, I even was able to climb a mountain, and all I did was keep my attention on the Lord.
How many failed and failed miserably? All right. Tell me what happened. Why did you?
I got failed from Jump Street. You know, it's not that I couldn't do it. I wanted to do it, and too many other things were in front of me that needed to be done. I thought, and the more that I did it, the more that it did it, which is I'm doing it. But I can do it, but you read me like a book today.
Why did your practice of those 12 days similar in Dion for 4 or 5 minutes, hour an hour? Why was that so difficult for you?
Because there was no purpose behind it. I just thought it would be a good idea, so so I'm gonna try. So maybe enjoy some peace in the 20 days, but it wasn't
without purpose, had no underlying purpose. Yeah. Thank you. You just really being very honest about it. See, for a lot of us, our practice is like that. It's mechanical. It's just no purpose. I mean, we'll try it and we'll see. But yes, beloved, how did your practice go?
I say it was sweet. I was actually very inspired, as well as when y'all left, man. I was like listening to y'all and then, scared at the same time, thinking about planes and stuff. But I've never been on a plane, and it was deep. I was worried, like, man, what is something happening? Some was like Maharaji himself will hold that plane up and get y'all, and it just stopped. It just stopped. And I just say upon the moment to moment reflection. It never left me because I knew y'all was going home. When I was on the mat, I felt like I was home. That's all I felt. I just felt I was home.
Did y'all feel like practicing? I mean, how many, whether those who stayed here or went to Kemet, how many of you really felt like doing that practice, who anticipated, who looked forward to it? You didn't have to raise your hand, but it's nice. You see. That was able to overcome that reluctance. You know what I mean? That this is something that I really want to do, as opposed to, yes.
I asked in my hula group, can it become addictive? It can, because I like that state of being focused. You know what I'm saying? Can this become addictive? Because I wanted to be focused like that. I like that feeling. So it for me, it was like, oh, wait, I gotta stop. I gotta, it gave me purpose. It gave me, everything has to stop. I have to do this. I have to. Somewhere, it's gotta feel it. It's got to.
Yes, Bill.
Me and Brahma had came up was, he mentioned about the 10% to God concept, like tithing in church. And, you know, we kicked that around a little bit, and I thought about it, I was like, yeah, you know, 5 minutes out of an hour, you know, if I could only flip that, you know, and make, because I, you know, in questioning myself about my purpose and what I want to do with my life, you know, in reality, what does that really look like? Could I really pull that off? Eventually, you know, in doing this practice, can I get it to where, you know, I'm giving all of my time and all of my attention to God, you know, and I could see that possibility in my life, and that was inspiring in itself.
Yes, sir.
One thing that occurred for me, I've never been pissed off about God before. So it was sort of a flip, you know, because I would sneak away, you know, I'm at work, and then people would come and look for me, you know, and bring me out of it. You know, my boss would come, and I'm like, I'll go find a corner and sit, right? I'm hiding out. And my boss, I can hear him coming to the apartment and open the door, and I gotta jump up. So it was interesting.
One of the things, and of course we're going to continue this, I'd like you to break into the individual Kula groups and really go into it. But one of the most important things I think for many of those who went, occurred when we went to the Temple of Sobek. And then Sobek, of course, is that symbolism of the ancient Pharaonic mystics representing fecundity, fertility, meaning that there has to be something fertile in you. You have to develop this fertility, whereby the Dharma can grow in you and become manifest in your life. And one of the things I was emphasizing while we were there is that all of us, you see, have got to acquire that quality of Sobek, you know, where this Dharma can grow in you and become manifest in your life and your living. One of the things that is universally the case, no matter what spiritual path anybody get on to, is the evolution to that stage of the process where you become fertile. You were talking about evolution, you see, beloved. I mentioned Farid Ndin Attar, and wrote some great pieces, and one of them was part of the 7 Valleys. Of course, his signature piece is the Conference of the Birds. But in the 7 Valley talks about, again, the phases of the process. You see, because it's a phase process. There's an evolution. There's some things you got to give first. Of course, that is hearing of the Dhamma. Got to hear the Dhamma. You see, right, and so forth and so on. Well, Sobek was like the name that the ancient Pharaonic mystic gave to one of these stages. You see, after being instructed, after hearing the Dhamma, then you got to be able to give birth to the Dhamma in your life. That's the quality of Sobek. You see, the ability to give birth to the Dhamma that you have heard in your actual life and living. One of the things that has been a universal obstacle for us as a Sangha is that, you know, everybody here has heard Dhamma, but there's a kind of sterility in it. I hear it in your Kula tape. There's a kind of sterileness in it. You know the Dhamma, you heard the Dhamma, you love the Dhamma, but you can't birth it into your life because you're sterile. You see, that sterility is because you don't have a spiritual purpose underpinning your practice. You see, you're still trying to do spiritual practice without having a real, genuine purpose to become enlightened. It's just still a good ideal for you. As long as this is just a good ideal for you, you're going to remain barren, sterile. You won't be able to reproduce anything. So you're going to have to develop this quality of Sobek, this fecundity, this fertility. You're going to have to give birth. And like all birth giving, there will be pain. you see, that you would have to go through, sacrifices that you have to make.
Is that real pain or?
It's real pain, real pain, emotional pain, psychological pain. And then, once you go through that phase, you enter into another phase, you see, right? You see. So all of these deities or gods and goddesses that makes up the Ennead and so forth, all represent certain stages in your development. You have to reach that stage of development in the spiritual process called Isis, you see, or Hathor, where you are able to become more loving. You see, because you can't become more loving if you haven't crossed the stage of Sobek. How will you do that? I mean, being more loving will still be at the level of rhetoric for you. Even when you try, you can't be more loving because you're sterile, you see. So it's so important now for all of us to realize that the task before you is to overcome your sterility. And so that you can give birth to these high ideals in your life and living. You know meditation is the most important thing. I should do the meditation. I should be regular upon. You know all of that. But you can't do it. You don't, because you're sterile. You still don't understand. This has got to be your primary purpose in life. It can't be secondary. It can't be down the line. Well, first, I'm going to be a good husband, a good father, a good this. No, 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 no. All that has to be made secondary. And that's the sacrifice. You see? But until you're able to make that turning, the process can't move forward in your case, you see. So I really want you all to address that personally, you see. Really address that personally and really examine yourself and really see, you see.
That's the kind of surrender that...
Yeah, surrender is very necessary. That's one of the things you learned in the temples there. When you enter into the pyramids, you see, the openings are small, they're declined. You have to what?
Bow down.
They learned that. Because if they didn't bow down, they hit their... You must bow down. You must surrender. Otherwise, you can't even enter into the holies of holies inside of those. You just can't walk in there. They made it such that you must bow down. This inability to bow down is another sign of the absence of Sobek. You can't bow down. And you got to bow down. You must surrender. And you must surrender all these other ambitions you got. You see, you got too many ambitions. You're trying to be the CEO, you're trying to be the boss, you're trying to get... You got too many ambitions. There can only be one ambition. And that's Horus consciousness. All other ambitions are made secondary to that. As long as you got all these ambitions, you are not going to do no sadhana. You can't do no sadhana. You see, your spiritual ambition is weak. And that's the truth. So all of this is good, you see. So make your decisions what kind of human being you will be, what kind of being you want to be, a great being or a mediocre, television-minded, TV-minded person. You see. Last word, yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to say that I know y'all saw a great deal of the distinctions in the architecture, but it did various deities up on the walls. You see how they got that hole in their hand, their staff. Does that mean that you got to cultivate, it's a cultivation?
Well, the crook and the flail, and so many other symbols that you see the deities holding are representing and indicating their own stages of that they have covered in the process. You know, the crook, it does just not mean control over Egypt. I mean control over me. You know, the flail, control, dominance over me. The Sethian impulses have been conquered in me. You see, not just so much a symbolism of a governmental authority. You know, they have achieved a certain self-mastery. You see my point? So those are the larger meanings, you know?
So esoteric in a lot of ways.
Yes, yes, yes. It's all about the inner process, all of it. All of it. It's about, here's the phases, here's the process, here's the stages. That's what you gotta go through, you see? You see? In order to become Hortus, you must die as Osiris. There's no other way. You see my point? No other way. Osiris must go. You see? You must die. Go through the duat, the pain, the sorrow, the suffering, to emerge Hortus. That's just how it is. You see? And there must be a willingness to do that. You see, you got the, so far so good. I mean, you all feel that becoming enlightened and the agency of grace and love, that's a good idea. That's fine, nothing wrong with that. So I'm not discounting that. That's good. At least you feel it's a great ideal. A lot of people don't even feel it's a good ideal. You see, so that's good, right? But now you must be willing to undergo the ordeal necessary to fulfill that good ideal. That's where you're stuck. You know it's a good ideal, and no doubt in your mind about that. You see? But there's still this unwillingness to undergo the ordeal for the sake of fulfilling that good ideal. And that is simply because you don't have a purpose yet. You know, there's no spiritual purpose in you. You see? It's the spiritual purpose that allows you to undergo the ordeal that fulfills, undergo the process to fulfill that good ideal. Does that make sense to you? So you got to find your purpose here. You got to really leave from here today or someday, sooner or later, really examine yourself and really ponder this here. You can't fake this thing here, right? This has got to be the purpose of your life. You're going to have to live your life for some purpose. So what will it be? What are you going to live? What will be the purpose of your life? You're going to have a purpose. Or are you going to live a purposeless life? Just scattered, hither and thither, blown anywhere. That's what you really got to go and consider. Right? Will it be a life of purpose or a life of just bullshit? It's just bullshit. And that's what Shaman Tabriz was showing Rumi. He said, Rumi, this is just intellectual, theological bullshit here you've been doing for 40 years. It's bullshit. And to Rumi's credit, Rumi saw it and agreed, yes, it is bullshit. Now show me the way beyond bullshit. And that's what Shams did for him. So in some sense, this is what is being done for us. I'm telling you, the purpose for which you have been living your life is just bullshit. It really is. It's not much purpose at all. And no sadhana is going to come out of a life based on bullshit. Don't you see it? And so y'all get in your cooler meeting and you just bullshitting each other. I know the difference between bullshit and the real thing. It's just bullshit. You even are shedding tears out of your bullshit. Now that's the truth. It's just bullshit. That ain't no high purpose. You see? So you're hiding, you know what I mean? You won't speak your real purpose. You follow what I'm saying? You're trying to pass off this anti-spiritual purpose is somehow being a spiritual purpose. You ain't got no, you're not purposed. That's why you're failing. You're not purposed. You fail because you're not purposed. And you just confessed it. You see how Jonah is just telling the truth. He failed because, shit, he didn't see no purpose. There was no purpose in it. That's true. It's true. And he will continue to fail until he can find a spiritual purpose to underlie and support his spiritual practice. You won't find that spiritual purpose until you stand back and look and see if what you're doing, is that going to be the purpose of your life, what you're doing? Is that it? Such a little small, tiny thing. That all you're going to do with your life? That's what you're doing now? Pretending to be care about people when you don't give a damn about people. It's just bullshit. You know? And our respective careers, our jobs, y'all don't care nothing about this work y'all doing. You really don't give a damn. You just there to get a paycheck, basically. And you pretending, oh, I'm so concerned with something. That's bullshit. You ain't concerned with these kids and these people and this bank and this business. You ain't concerned with that. That's just bullshit. You pretending. You follow what I'm saying? And that's all you're gonna do with your life? And die without ever having lived a purposeful life. And you got your chance. Now let's celebrate. Before we have prasad and pizza, let's quickly pass out our gifts that we brought. Now, in the absence of Navaji and Sahasaji, they've given me their gifts for certain people, and I think I got their names on these things. I hope so. So I have no idea. But just go around and give those. Oh, Saranja, I have something for you from Sahasaji, so come get yours. Now, after this, we're going to have prasad and then pizza. So I'll let you pass them all around. Wait, stay with me 1 minute here. There's no Siddhanta here.
Nope, he's in.
Saratya? Saratya. This is hers from Mahanta. That's Mahanta's gift to her. Where is Arya Saab? He not here?
Nope.
Sarandas? Where's Sarandas go? Where's Sarandas? Will you see him today? Did you see him? Where is Sarandasi? He disappeared? Okay, can we find our seats real quickly because we got to get out of this room. We're going to close out our meeting, and then we're going to have our pizza, and then we're going to turn the room over. Somebody else will be using it.
I just wanted to tell them because
Listen up.
anyone that is waiting for something from Nana, would you please see me? I won't get it until Monday, but I will make sure I get it to you this week. So I need your name.
Who did I give a T-shirt to?
Surrender, didn't you?
Hey, pal, this is for you from Sahasaji. All right, let's find our seats real clear, quickly. Everybody know what they are to consider in the next school of meetings?
Yeah.
And the meeting after that, and the meeting after that, and the meeting after that? Same thing. And so let's see if we can find a common purpose here, because if we can do that, beloveds, we can recreate here in Baghdad what we saw there in Egypt, and we won't have to go to Egypt again. And I am suggesting that one of the common component in each of our purpose in life should be becoming an agency of love, an agency of compassion. If we would each try to make that a part of the purpose of our life and our living, to really genuinely become a conduit for the unlimited loving that is going on, to be a conduit for the wisdom that we have seen in Kemet, to become a conduit for this Dharma, to convey it, to bring it into other people's lives, to become an agency of peace, to bring joy where there is sorrow, and so forth and so on. If we can make that collectively the purpose of our life, we too could put a dent in this universe, as our ancestors did, you see. So in your reflections, at least consider, and I don't know what you will conclude to be your purpose in your life, but if you can include that kind of component, I think we're going to really be able to flourish here and accomplish something magnificent. So we want to be able to be used by God. You know what I mean? And many of us, unfortunately, because of the absence of Sobek, are in a condition where God really can't use us too much because we're too self-contracted, too turned in on ourselves, too weak and unable to make sacrifices for the sake of others. In that condition, God really can't use us that much. So let that become, our goal is to become capable of being a tool in God's hand to help bring some solace to this suffering world. It's really interesting. Yesterday I had a meeting with the Adidon people. They're trying to get me down to the Fiji Islands. I don't know if they're going to kill me or I had to think about it. It's come off of a long trip where people almost killed me.
You gotta go with bodyguards.
Yes, but in any case, they're trying to launch some like a kind of worldwide effort. There's a lot of that going on. And I was suggesting to them, well, you know, you can't really eliminate suffering on Fiji. I don't know how you're going to do it on the planet. You know what I mean? But it is, the point I'm making is that there are many other people out here who are trying to elevate their human existence to a point where they can serve as agency. This seems to be something going on all over the spiritual world. So I mean, Nityananda is building schools all over the planet, trying to bring Dharma into the world. Academies are being set up, so forth and so on. Hopefully that's something that we can consider as a group. But first, being of use to God has got to become our purpose, you know. Until that becomes our purpose, there's no point in making these suggestions. And I definitely will have to network with other groups who have made that their purpose and are willing to make whatever sacrifices, you know, of time, energy, and attention, which always make me feel sad because here we have a community, but everybody's busy in it. You see my point? With their own stuff, to the point that can't use you. So I know all of you Afrocentric people don't like the idea of me networking with these white people, but what can I do? You Afrocentric people are too turned in on yourself. You know? So there may be another trip to Africa with that express purpose. We did a little bit of that when we took the school supplies, but we didn't take no Dharma. And ultimately, that's a higher use. God says that, you know, giving people material things is not going to make that much difference, right? But it's the knowledge of how to bring suffering to an end. That's the greatest gift that we can give anybody, right? So consider that. And then let's see what's going to happen here with this little group here. Let's see what we can do in Baghdad. Okay, and come for your push-up.
you use me? I may not be the best at this or that, but whatever I can do, Master, can you use me? Come on, Jesse. Sing that for me.
Question that you should be asking yourself. Look into yourself, face in your condition, and find out, can God use you at all for anything that's got to do with loving somebody out there? Nothing could be more heartbreaking than the Lord to tell you, I can't use you. 7 generations of your people. Too selfish, too afraid, too turned in on yourself, without purpose. Useless. Spiritually useless. Go eat, and I'll see you next week, whenever the next Satsang. All right, right, shake.